So I talked to you for about, I don't know, 30 minutes about music. I'm sure you all have your own individual relationships with music you like to listen to, but also music you play in your pubs and stuff. So hopefully you will learn something. I think music's one of these very complex things that, you know, we all have our own individual relationships with it, but we maybe not think about how we can use it to the best benefit of the pub. And obviously, as alluded to just before, it's a very challenging atmosphere at the moment for pubs, lots of competition. And maybe, hopefully, if I've done my job right, something I'll say in terms of how you can use music will help you in your pub and facing up to these challenges that the market is giving you. Let's just see if we can get this working. So a little bit, here we are. So music effects. My personal relationship with music is as a DJ. This is me playing in the south of France last year. I know firsthand how music affects people, brings people together, all races, all genders, and people communally kind of come together with music. Music is a soundtrack to our lives. We'll all remember songs throughout our teenage years that have relevance to a significant event. Our first kiss, or the song we got married, the first dance, etc., and stuff like that. So we all have this powerful connection with music. And that's something that extends obviously to your customers. They'll all have that as well. I also studied psychology at university, so I was interested in how music affects people, not just from a performing kind of perspective, from a creative perspective, but also from a psychological perspective. Music is one of these things that's like it works on your conscious, but also your subconscious. I find that really fascinating. It can affect your mood, it can affect your health, it can be used to heal. Lots of examples of people that have had a stroke, lost some motor functions, and music's helped them to walk again and things like that. So it's super powerful, and it's not just this luxury thing, it's not just this cultural thing, it's something that works really deep, much deeper down. I did lots of experiments when I was doing my psychology degree about different types of music, how it can speed people up, help people do things faster, do things slower, and things like that. And that's really what extended into the creation of my business, OpenAir. OpenAir, we've been in business for over 10 years. We're UK-based. We work globally, and we help advise businesses on the music that they play. We've developed a suite of apps that I'll go into in a little bit that helps you guys as operators kind of manage your music and make the most of music. Some of our clients that we work with, etc. So just taking a step back, music is evolutionary. Before we are able to speak, we are musical. We're musical beings. A mother and their infant, they build up a rapport through musicality, pre-verbal utterances. We're building that bond before we can actually speak and communicate. So it's really crucial for communication. The reason I've used birds here is because it's a fight or flight thing. If the birds aren't singing, and this is obviously going back generations and generations, then that signifies danger. And you can extend that up to current day. I've just spent the weekend in Donegal with my family. We went into a pub. There was no music on, and my immediate thought was, is the pub closed? Am I welcome here? Am I meant to be here? Have I done something wrong? And it's the same as this. It's the bird's fight or flight thing. So it's evolutionary. So if you've decided to music, I guess I should ask: do you all play music in your pub? Show of hands, who plays music? Yeah, some nods. So we all play music. Yeah, fantastic. So you've decided to play music. So then the question is where do you start? So there's millions and millions of songs out there now. It used to be that the charts would be a really good indicator of what your customers' tastes were. What's in the top 40 or whatever would be where most of what your customers would be listening to. Obviously, now we live in this day and age where you have millions of songs at your fingertips, Spotify and YouTube and all the other digital services that are out there. Fantastic. And what that's meant is your customers have diversified in terms of music they listen to. They listen to a much wider range of songs. They all they're all DJs in essence. They're all making their own playlists. They're all delving much deeper into music. And that means they're much more demanding when it comes to the experiences they're having in your pubs with the music you play. If you play maybe the top 40, is that cheapening your experience and stuff? I'll talk about that in a little bit. So where do you start? Obviously, the first thing is get the licensing correct. The other thing is make sure you're doing it right. So the likes of Spotify, YouTube are personal and home use only licensed services. You might want to check that out. I'm not here to police or anything like that, but it's worthwhile mentioning. The classic way of using music in your pub is obviously jukebox. Does any of you use jukeboxes? No? Yeah? Yes. So a few of you use jukeboxes. Obviously, jukeboxes are fantastic if you get a return for the jukebox. If customers are spending, fantastic, because that means they're interacting with the music. Obviously, a lot of you aren't using jukeboxes, and I guess the reason for that is because they become quite old-fashioned. In essence, maybe you're not getting a return. Maybe your customers aren't wanting to, put in £1 or whatever, or €1 to get the song selected and stuff like that. So you've got to look for other options. Obviously, live music as well. I'm sure a lot of you have live bands in the pub at certain times of day. They're obviously not going to be playing all day long. They'll run out of songs. They'll get tired very quickly. But live music is great for your busy times, Friday, Saturday nights and stuff. I'm sure that's the case for a lot of you. It comes into playlists. So I guess a lot of you have probably now switched, if you were using jukeboxes before, to playlists. I guess, yep. And then it just the question is then how do you start creating your playlists? So I guess the thing is to start creating your playlists, you've got to think, well, are these playlists affecting, and how can I use these playlists to my best advantage for your business? So, who does your music affect? Obviously, it affects your customers. They're your primary concern. They are, the reason you're in business. You want them to spend money in your business. So music's one of these things. As I said, often when you're playing music, we're listening in different ways. The reason we're called open ear is because your ears are always open. They're always receiving information. Now, a lot of the time with music, it's on your subconscious. So you actually won't be consciously thinking, I'm hearing this song, I like this song, or whatever. But it will be there, and that information is going through to your brain. If you do hear a song you like, or probably more likely, if you hear a song you don't like, then you're going to have a response to that. So it's important to think about how that music is selected, and how your customers are going to react to that music you're playing. So first of all, there's been lots of studies done around different types of music and the effect it can have. One of the most often cited ones was a study done in an off-license, and you had different types of music played in different weeks. One week they played French music, the following week they played German music. When they played the French music, the sales of French wines tripled. When they played the German music, the sales of German wines actually doubled. So you could probably think that, it's having a direct impact. They asked people when they were at the checkout, why did you choose that type of wine? And they would never think, it's because I heard the music. So that just shows you it's working on your subconscious, and it's acting as a trigger to help influence the buying decision that customer is making. We're all influenced by our surroundings. We're all influenced by things going on around us. We're all influenced by the things we see and whatever. And obviously we're influenced by the things we hear, as this example shows. So it's a very powerful thing. Now you think with the French wines, well, that's obvious. Maybe most people were going in to buy French wines anyway. But with the German wines, probably less likely to be going into the off-license thinking, I'm going to go and buy a German wine. So that's completely changed, what the behavior of someone that's walked into that off-license and influenced in a way that's helped them then buy that certain product. So maybe something you can think about in your pubs. Doing special promotions, doing things to push certain drinks at certain times of year. How long do you want to keep them? So I've used this photo because we chew in time to music. It's inbuilt into us. We can't help it. As soon as there's a beat and a pace and a tempo, then we as human beings will automatically just start moving in time to that. So if you're there and you're serving food in your pub, your customers start chewing in time to the music. That means then if you play faster paced music, they'll probably finish their meal a lot faster. If you play slower paced music, they'll slow down and maybe stay a bit longer with you. So you can use music in terms of its tempo to help affect your customers in that kind of way. One example here, Oakman Inns, they're a chain of kind of gastropubs in the just north of London. It's about 30 pubs, and we did an experiment with them. So I'm sure a lot of you, obviously, the way that your pub is meeting these challenges of the industry is increasing your food offerings, having this split function of restaurant, then bar later on at night, etc. Oakman is very similar, very big open plan, very nicely designed spaces. They were getting their bars very busy at night. Their restaurant sales weren't so good. They were playing commercial music, chart music. They said to us, how can we drive more sales in the restaurant end of our business as opposed to the bar end of their business? So we went from playing chart music that they'd done themselves to a little bit more sophisticated soul music, jazz music, Motown, etc. And what they found was the actual bar was a little bit quieter. The restaurants were a little bit busier, but what would be happening in the restaurant was people would be spending more on more expensive products on the menu. So they would buy an extra bottle of wine or a more expensive bottle of wine. They would buy a dessert that they wouldn't have been buying before. And the trigger there was because at dessert time, they'd be thinking, this is a pub. I'm not here as a restaurant experience. This is a pub. I want to get to the bar. Now, they would also have the bar slightly quieter, so immediately that would worry them. They said, well, a bar's quiet on a Friday night because the kids are maybe going elsewhere because, they're not feeling like the atmosphere they want to try and they're there to go and experience. But ultimately, the younger kids that they're referring to were spending less money and buying cheaper alcoholic products, whereas the slightly older demographic that were at the restaurant was buying higher value products, and that was yielding a much bigger return for their business. So an interesting experiment. Also what we did with them was just design the playlist in terms of how it's scheduled to make sure that when it does function more as a restaurant throughout dinner time, the music is more suited to that. When it does want to function more for a bar, then the music's more suited to that. And that crossover period around 9-10 p.m. was a really key part of their kind of trading flow throughout the day. I also did another experiment similar to this with the Royal Academy. They have a sort of members room in there in London. And during the day, it sort of functions as a kind of co-work space. There's lots of meetings and stuff. But they really wanted to try and drive more bar sales and keep people there longer, post 5 o'clock. Because what they would find is if people would have meetings during the day, 5 o'clock or whenever, they would just leave and go elsewhere. So we did an experiment, and actually I was there when we were doing it. We were just standing there watching this happen. Very busy kind of room, lots of meetings, lots of laptops on tables, etc. And at 4 o'clock, we raised the volume level of the music slightly. At 5 o'clock, we changed the playlist. It's very kind of chilled out, kind of Café de Mar style playlist during the day. Made it a little bit more lively, a little bit more familiar, a little bit more fun. 5 o'clock, obviously the volume level had been raised. By 5:15, it was remarkable. All those laptops that I'd seen out on the tables had been put away and they were replaced with a glass of wine or a beer. So it was actually just remarkable watching that unfold in front of my eyes. What kind of experience do you want to have? You want your customers to have? Obviously, music is an atmosphere creator. It helps to create the experience that they're having. It's the soundtrack, as I said before. Played at different volume levels can influence that experience a lot. So we did an experiment with, again, another co-work kind of space. They didn't have any music before we came in, and they wanted customers to have, their members to have, to be able to work there. What they would find is, as soon as a member would have a phone call and they want to take a business phone call, whatever, they felt too self-conscious to be having those phone calls in front of in a communal space. So they would run out to the corridors and they'd be having their business meetings out in the corridors because there's no music playing. As soon as we put music, it created a sound masking kind of tool to help give more privacy to conversations. So music wasn't just a thing that's like a cultural thing or something nice to listen to. It was something that actually functionally could really help. So your bars, obviously, your pubs will be having multi-functions throughout the day. If you want to keep people there and make them feel comfortable with whatever they're doing, then, music is a good addition. Make sure it's just played at the right volume levels to create that privacy between conversations. So I've used Auntie's Josh here because I finally worked out why Boxing Day is called Boxing Day, and we work with Selfridges, the department store in London, and on Boxing Day last year they phoned us up and they said, "Oh, there's fights breaking out in the department store in the menswear." And obviously that's a big sales day for them. It's their busiest day of the year. They've had people queuing overnight to get the best sales, and it becomes quite an aggressive atmosphere. So it overspilled this year, and people were actually fighting over products or whatever. So they said, "Can you do something about this?" So we changed the music to something a lot more relaxed, a lot more, dare I say, feminine, and all of a sudden all the fights stopped, and it was a much nicer environment for everyone. So music has that impact there. So who does music affect? Obviously your staff. So the staff are the people that spend most of the time in your business. Staff are really important, but very problematic sometimes in terms of like how you control your music. A lot of you probably allow your staff to control the music themselves, and that could be right in many cases. You know, everyone is a DJ, as I said before. You know, we all have a relationship with music. We all are music fans to a certain extent, and you'll probably have a member or a few members of staff that think of themselves as, maybe they even do it, you know, work as a DJ or work in music in some much way. So you want to pass on that to them. It's great to have staff involved with the music, but how much do you trust their taste? I mean, the amount of times that businesses come and talk to us and say, "Yeah, I had a member of staff, he was great, she was great music selection, you know, our music was sorted," then they left. And all of a sudden, the new member of staff comes in and starts to select the music. It's completely wrong for the business. The other scenario we get a lot of the times is you know, business goes from one site to two sites, or two sites to three sites. You guys as operators can't be in two places at once. You might have a nice music policy or whatever that you've put into your pub. The minute your back's turned, staff members gone on and was playing like techno or drum and bass or heavy rock or something like that is completely contrary to the type of experience you want. I think the thing with staff is the staff demographic, the people that you're hiring, is often very different to your customers. You know, if customers might be slightly older, your staff might be 18 now. Are their tastes going to be the same as what appeals to your customers? It's a question to ask. So it's very difficult to get that right, especially if you're using something like a Spotify or whatever, because staff will all have their own accounts. Quite easy for them to just go and plug in their password and username, and then they're off on their own personal music journey. Sorry, the slides are a little bit, it's meant to have a black background, but anyway, who does music affect? Your brand. So you all have a brand. You know, brand is sometimes a dirty word, but you know, as a pub, you all have an identity, I guess it is. And music is there as something that can help you tell your identity to your customers, help you tell your story, if you like, to your customers. Now, you could be a sort of themed pub, and then your identity is very clear. If that's the case, you probably spent a lot of money making yourself look nice, feel nice, tell that story to your customers. The amount of times I've seen businesses that have an amazing visual identity, but then that doesn't translate into their musical identity. They haven't really thought about it. So they're probably playing generic sort of chart music that any old place could play, and then they've got a really kind of clear visual identity with the space. It's very incongruous, those two things. You know, you want to maximize the experiences your customers are having. You want to have them working in parallel, in tandem to the benefit, so in synergy. We live in a very visual world, and I think that's why music often gets left as the last thing on the list. And my job, I guess, is to say, well, hang on, can you move it up a little bit and make sure that it's in line with your visual identity, your brand identity? It tells your story. So you might look unique, but do you sound unique? You know, as I said at the start, your customers are becoming a lot more savvy to all sorts of music. They become more demanding when the music they're listening to, and they also crave for much more diverse experiences when they come to music. I think that they're less inclined to just listen to stuff in the charts, just listen to stuff that they're familiar with from you know, the classics from previous generations. You know, you can really start to dig into the whole history of music to really tell your story and make yourself unique. This example here, Red Rooster, it's a Harlem-based restaurant. They've opened up in London now. Their story is based on their proprietor, a guy called Marcus Samuelson. his own personal story is he's part Ethiopian, he's part Swedish. He was born in Harlem. His restaurant serves southern fried chicken, and his musical identity encompasses all those different things. So there's elements of like New York hip hop in there. There's like blues and soul music from the south. There's even some Ethiopian jazz in there, and there's even some Swedish music as well. So all that put together sounds like quite a random mix of music. But I tell you, that it really works, and it really works because it's part of that story, that brand story as well. It's very unique, and we're always getting good comments on that. So much so that they've released a Live at Red Rooster album, and they've also done these little cards where they'll give out to any customers that are liking the music, and it's got a little code in the back, and they can scan it, and they can get the playlists delivered to their inbox, so they can take away a part of that musical experience that they've had there. It's educative. It's about music discovery. You know, Shazam is one of the top 10 most downloaded apps in the world, and that's about music discovery. You know, the fact that it's so popular means that all your customers are listening. They've got open ears. They want to be educated. They want to discover new music. If they can discover new music through your guys' premises, that's a fantastic branding tool. You know, they're taking away that experience. They're remembering that band that they've discovered through you guys. You can also tell that story through social media. It doesn't have to just be background music. You know, this is one of the reasons we're in business is to try and abolish that sort of term, because it really devalues the way which music can be used and how important music can be. To banish from background music, you have to give a level of control to you guys as operators, and also to be able to tell the story of your music to your customers. There's many, many ways in which you can do that in this day and age. Obviously, social media is one. I mentioned these cards. You know, we do a whole range of different things. Obviously, it's very site-specific. So sound is important too. Obviously, I guess. You know, the type of loudspeakers you get, the more money you want to invest gives you better sound fidelity. Often I've seen businesses that really try and cut corners with it. They might have a couple of speakers in two corners of the pub. That means people sitting next to those speakers can hear it maybe too loud. People over the other side of the pub can't hear it at all. You know, so getting a good coverage across is really important. The quality of the loudspeakers that you decide to invest in. I know it's an expense, but you get a better quality of loudspeaker, better frequency range, higher fidelity sound. Often the tinny speakers that you might get, you know, that's at the same frequency range that we have our conversations at. So you're competing with your music at that range with your customers' conversations. So you're tiring them out even more, like I said before. So if you get a better, higher range of sound fidelity, then it's going to give a much more rounded sound and musical experience to your customers. And again, they're going to feel much more comfortable in your spaces. I've got this wireless speakers. Wireless speakers are great for the home. It's similar to Spotify and YouTube. You know, the amount of businesses I speak to that have wireless speakers because they want to cut a little bit of cost. It sounds great on paper, but as soon as they've got more than, I think, 4 Sonos speakers in the business, it will start to buffer and start to cut out. I don't know if you guys use that much, but the amount of businesses I've spoken to that have decided to go with the Sonos direction, the wireless speaker direction, and that has led to problems in the longer term and led to them retrofitting loudspeaker cables, etc., which adds to the expense as well. So something to consider. So a little bit about OpenAir. We've taken everything that I've sort of said today and tried to build a system and a service that caters to all the different needs of pubs, bars, restaurants, hospitality businesses. We give you as much control as you need, but we also try and take away the hard work. You know, it's important to say, you know, you're open 12 hours a day, 24 hours a day in some cases. That's a hell of a lot of music that you have to listen to. You know, 200, 300 songs a day. The playlist that you or your staff might do at home, you know, they're maybe not going to be big enough or good enough to be able to last as long as that. So that's something we consider when we just work business to business, is getting the playlist big enough to cater to your opening hours, big enough to give you enough variety, updated enough to give you enough new songs coming in so you're always on trend, and obviously curated in the sense where it's giving you the right music at the right times. We believe in the human being. There's obviously a lot of algorithmic kind of stuff that's coming out in terms of how you can select songs. We don't believe that it's, at this stage, maybe in the future, is possible for an algorithm to help generate the right song selection for you. So we work with a team of music curators, of DJs, of people that are invested in music, that listen to music, and are really just getting to know you and your business and understand your story and source and select songs that work for your business. We have built a next generation suite of apps and a music platform that helps you manage your music in real time. It's giving you new music every day. It's running off the internet, but it also works offline. It enables you to make sure that your music is correct throughout the day. It's got a scheduler, so again, you can really trace your typical footfall throughout the week, and you can make sure the right playlist is playing at the right times of day. It's got a remote control app, so you could be behind the bar, you could be serving a customer, you want to change the music, you can do it from your own mobile phone. So you can really respond to the ebbs and flows of what's happening in your business within an instant. Again, it's another way of how we get away from it being background music. You know, background music, no control. You've got a control here to be able to change the music, change the atmosphere, and really capture your customer's imagination, hopefully help to drive sales at the end of the day. We've developed a tool called the Energy Slider. Again, we come from a DJ background, so it's about what would a DJ do? They select songs, and then they play those songs to create an energy within the room. The Energy Slider allows you to have that ability. Simply up and down, moving up and down can create new energy levels in terms of your playlist. And you can really help to capture imagination. And we've had businesses that are using it, you know, say a bar on a Tuesday night, they might have a pretty chilled playlist on, but all of a sudden they've got a big group coming in. Energy slider up, they've got a lively bar again. You know, so the music is really responding to what's happening day to day in the business. And returning investment, well, that's the big thing that everyone wants. You know, music is one of these things that, you know, as I said before, you spend a lot of money on everything else in your business. I'm just here to say that music should probably have a place for you to spend. I think that if you do it right, and certainly our customers will feel this, they get a return on investment, and it leads to, you know, it blends in with the rest of the other aspects of the experience that you're trying to create for your customers. So I'll skip that. We can show you that afterwards. If you're looking for a free trial, we can set that up for you. I'm here, so if you have any questions, I'd be delighted to have. Thank you very much for listening.